Ever feel like you're navigating a battlefield, like in your daily life?
Yeah, totally.
Well, get this. Today's deep dive, we're equipping you with, like, the strategies of a legendary military mastermind.
Oh, wow. Okay, well,
Sun Tzu, author of The Art of War.
the art of war. And I mean, before you think, wait, hold on, I'm not planning any like actual military campaigns. Sun Tzu's wisdom, right? It's ancient, but it's surprisingly relevant
Super relevant.
to the battles we face in the modern world.
Totally.
Think like boardrooms, those tricky negotiations, even just personal goals we're like strategizing to achieve.
Exactly. We're drawing insights from this fascinating Medium article that like breaks down the book's key themes and how they apply to our lives.
Like,
Think of it like we're extracting timeless wisdom from this 2,500-year-old guidebook.
a guidebook that, and this is interesting to me, still resonates today.
For sure.
CEOs, athletes, even, those navigating the dating world,
Right.
finding value in its pages.
Okay, so for anyone unfamiliar with this ancient gem, let's set the stage a little bit.
Okay.
What exactly is the art of war, and why should we care about it, like, now in the 21st century?
So in a nutshell, it's a military treatise, right? It's attributed to Sun Tzu, a high-ranking military strategist in ancient China. Imagine just like a guide to navigating warfare. That's essentially what this is. Now, the beauty of this work is that it goes, beyond just those military tactics.
Okay.
Sun Tzu, he delves into like the core of strategy,
Right.
conflict,
Yeah.
understanding human psychology, elements that are present in every aspect of our lives.
And the Medium article really highlights that. Yeah. It gives examples of how these principles in the art of war, you can apply them to business negotiations,
Sure.
personal relationships, even politics.
Right.
For instance, there's a whole section on like how CEOs are using these ancient strategies
Wow.
to outperform their competition in today's business world.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Understanding your competition,
Okay.
anticipating their moves,
Right.
knowing when to act and when to hold back.
Mm-hmm.
These are all principles that are just as relevant in a boardroom
Totally.
as they were on a battlefield centuries ago.
It's like Sun Tzu was saying, hey, the battlefield might change,
Right.
but the principles of strategy,
Yeah,
those are timeless.
precisely.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful concepts he introduces is this idea of winning without actually fighting.
Okay, now that sounds like a paradox.
Right.
How do you win without even, like, engaging in a fight?
So think of it like a game of chess, right?
Okay.
A skilled player, they don't just capture pieces randomly. They think several moves ahead.
Right.
They're anticipating their opponent's strategy
Yeah.
and positioning their pieces in a way that forces their opponent to make mistakes.
Okay.
So they're weakening their position without a direct confrontation.
So it's about being strategic,
Yes.
thinking ahead, and kind of like maneuvering your opponent into a position where they have no choice but to concede.
Exactly. Sun Tzu called this achieving supreme excellence.
I love that.
And it's something that resonates really strongly in areas like negotiation and conflict resolution. So instead of like charging headfirst into a conflict,
Right. You're kind of aiming to outmaneuver them,
yes,
outsmart them,
you
and
can.
lead them to, like, a peaceful resolution.
Precisely.
But ideally one where they see it as a win for them too.
Yes. Imagine you're like trying to negotiate a raise.
Okay.
A Sun Tzu approach wouldn't be like storming into your boss's office and being like, I need more money.
Right.
Instead, you would strategically highlight your accomplishments,
Okay.
the value you bring to the company,
Right.
and kind of frame the conversation in a way that aligns with their goals,
Okay.
their priorities,
Gotcha.
showcasing how giving you that raise ultimately benefits everyone.
It's almost like you're subtly leading them to the conclusion you want
Exactly.
without them even realizing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, another key takeaway from the art of war
Yeah.
is this importance of preparation and adaptability.
Right.
Sun Tzu stresses knowing yourself,
Right.
knowing your opponent,
Yes.
and being ready to adjust your strategy based on, the circumstances. They change.
Right. That whole idea of knowing the battlefield,
Yeah.
even if that battlefield is like, a boardroom
Yes.
or a difficult conversation you're anticipating.
Exactly. Sun Tzu believed that knowledge
Yeah.
is power.
Right.
By gathering information,
Okay.
understanding the situation thoroughly,
Yeah.
you're better equipped to anticipate challenges
Yeah.
and seize opportunities.
For sure.
So let's say you're entering a new market with your business.
Okay.
A Sun Tzu approach would be, conducting thorough market research,
Yeah.
understanding the competitive landscape,
Gotcha.
Identifying potential roadblocks.
And just as importantly, once you're in the game, you
Yes.
need to be able to adapt, right?
Absolutely.
Adjust your strategy as needed.
Yes, because things rarely go according to plan,
Never.
right? The Medium article uses this great analogy.
Okay.
A general adapting their battle plans based on unexpected weather conditions.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So in business, that unexpected weather could be
Yeah, what would that be?
a shift in consumer behavior,
Okay.
a new technology emerging,
Right.
or even a competitor,
Yeah.
kind of, coming in, making a surprise move.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So being able to pivot
Right.
and adjust your approach is crucial.
Yeah, you got to be able to read those cues and react in a way
Yes.
that keeps you ahead of the game.
And sometimes that means knowing when to retreat,
Oh, interesting.
to regroup and reassess
Okay.
before charging back in.
Okay.
Remember Sun Tzu, he wasn't advocating for reckless aggression.
Right.
It was about calculated moves and choosing your battles wisely.
Which brings us to another fascinating concept from the art of war.
Yes.
This idea of leveraging weaknesses, both your own and your opponent's.
Right.
Now, that might seem a little counterintuitive at first.
It does, but it's a powerful strategy.
Okay.
Sun Tzu argued that every strength has a corresponding weakness.
Interesting.
So if you can identify your own vulnerabilities,
Okay.
you can take steps to mitigate them,
Right.
making yourself less susceptible to attack.
So it's like doing a personal SWOT analysis.
Exactly.
Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Yes.
But then taking it a step further and applying it to whoever you're facing.
Right.
Whether it's a competitor,
Right.
a difficult client,
Yeah.
or even that inner critic we all have to grapple with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's say you tend to be a bit too trusting in like business dealings.
Okay.
That's a weakness.
Right.
You can work on that
Okay.
by being aware of it.
Right.
You can put safeguards in place.
Okay.
Maybe have contracts reviewed by a lawyer, for example,
Yeah.
to protect yourself
Gotcha.
from potential pitfalls.
And then on the flip side, if you can identify the weaknesses in your opponent's strategy,
Yes.
you can use that to your advantage.
Right.
Not in a malicious way,
Of course not.
but in a way that allows you to,
Position yourself for success.
Exactly.
Precisely. And this ties back to the concept of winning without fighting. By understanding your opponent's weaknesses,
Yeah.
you can find ways to outmaneuver them,
Right.
to make your position so strategically advantageous that they have little choice but to concede.
It's like they're conceding to their own benefit almost.
Exactly.
It's like that scene in a movie, right? Where one character, they predict their opponent's next move.
Right.
Because they've studied them, their
Yeah.
patterns, their habits, their weaknesses.
Exactly. It's about strategic anticipation and positioning,
Okay.
not necessarily brute force or aggression.
Which I think is something that often gets lost, in translations of the art of war. People think of it, and it's portrayed as this ruthless guide to domination.
Right. But it's so much more nuanced than that.
Right.
Sun Tzu also emphasizes the importance of building a strong defense, of protecting your own resources, your well-being. And interestingly enough, he even talks about treating your defeated opponent with respect,
Oh, wow.
integrating them rather than humiliating them.
Wow, that's not something you often hear about.
It's true. Sun Tzu understood that true victory, it wasn't just about crushing the enemy.
Right.
It was about, achieving your objectives with minimal losses, creating a more stable and harmonious outcome.
That's a really refreshing perspective, and I think it speaks to the timelessness of Sun Tzu's wisdom. He wasn't just talking about winning battles on a battlefield.
Right.
He was talking about navigating the complexities of, just human interaction.
Exactly. And that's why it's still so relevant today.
Totally.
Its principles, they resonate
Okay.
because they tap into something fundamental about the human experience,
Yeah.
the desire to achieve our goals, navigate those challenges effectively, and emerge, victoriously from conflict.
Now, the article does point out that, relying solely on the art of war, can be a bit limiting.
Okay.
For one thing, it's coming from this ancient context
Yeah.
means some of the strategies, they might not translate perfectly to, the complexities of today's world.
That's true. It's important to remember this text was written centuries ago.
Yeah.
So while those core principles are super relevant,
Mm.
we need to be mindful, right, of applying them thoughtfully
Right.
and ethically
For sure.
to modern situations.
And the article also emphasizes that, The art of war, it focuses primarily on competition,
Right.
which isn't always the most effective
Right.
or appropriate approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are times when collaboration, empathy, finding common ground,
Right.
those are far more effective strategies than
Yeah.
trying to outmaneuver someone.
So it's really about having a diverse toolkit
Yes.
of like skills and approaches. You need to be able to recognize when the principles of like the art of war are relevant, useful,
Right.
and when, other approaches might be more appropriate.
Precisely. It's about being adaptable, knowing when to draw on that strategic thinking,
Right.
when to prioritize, things like collaboration and empathy.
Which brings us back to that thought-provoking question, I feel like, the article posed.
Okay.
If Sun Tzu were advising you today, what battle would he help you strategize for?
That's such a powerful question.
It really is.
It makes you think about all the different areas in your life
Right.
where, like, that little bit of strategic thinking could make a real difference.
Right. Is it a challenging negotiation you're facing? A,
Yeah,
a
no.
career move you're contemplating? Or maybe it's something more personal?
Right.
An internal battle you're working through?
It's a great reminder that the principles of, like, strategy, self-awareness, knowing your opponent,
Right.
whether that's, a competitor, a challenging situation, or even your own self-doubt,
Right.
those are relevant in all aspects of our lives.
Well said. And on that note, it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. It's been fascinating to explore the enduring wisdom of this ancient text
Absolutely.
and to discover how its principles can be applied to, just our modern lives.
It just goes to show, even after 2,500 years, there's still so much we can learn from, the great strategic minds of the past.
Couldn't agree more. And for our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked some inspiration for you to approach your own battles, whatever they may be, with a renewed sense of strategy, self-awareness, and maybe even a little bit of that Sun Tzu wisdom.
Here, here.
And with that, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, knowledge is power,
Yes.
especially when you know how to use it strategically.